Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today we've got some Jasmy updates, as well as something that I know everybody loves, which is price predictions. So stick around towards the end of the video and you'll be able to see what I was able to come up with based on some research and some estimates that I was able to make. So anyway, let's go on ahead and dive right in. So starting out, you can see we have the chart that we went over yesterday, and you can see I've still got all of the lines drawn. We can see if we zoom in a little bit, we've started to bounce off of this line of support that I drew. So, overall, I mean, things are holding at least pretty stable from what we can tell from kind of this first wedge. But again, also like I mentioned in the video yesterday, if you want to go check out a little bit more deeper analysis into this chart, we can see that if it were to break down past this line, it's not necessarily a completely broken wedge, because we do have maybe this secondary descending wedge that we could be looking toward as well. Now, the reason I bring up the chart today is not necessarily to look at the structure. This is mainly just to provide a kind of a quick update to see that we have indeed bounced off the support line. But what I want to do is zoom way out. Yep, here we are, and go to the very end here, which is we can see an all-time high, at least in the recent past, of 35-ish cents roughly for Jasmy. I know in the far past, this was. We'll look at CoinMarketCap actually right now, because we can see here in the far past, we can see that price was all the way up at like $4, I want to say. Yeah, like $4.30. So, I think there's a lot of people who are looking at, well, all-time highs are $4.30, and, maybe Jasmy can get back to that in this next bull run. We're going to dive in a little bit into that to see, if we think that's reasonable or not. So starting out, we'll just get right into it. So as we can see right now, Jasmy's sitting at about 2 cents. The total supply, like again I mentioned in my video yesterday, we're almost fully diluted. So there's not much more circulating Jasmy coin that should be entering into the market. And we can see that the fully diluted valuation is pretty close to what the market cap is currently, which is just over $1 billion. Now, what I want to do is I want to change our view on this a little bit and go with market cap. One thing that a lot of people in crypto you really don't seem to understand, which is kind of surprising to me, is that, price is really not what you should be focusing on, right? Because with price, we don't really have any sort of context for what it means, right? Price is just a number, and really what matters, and what matters greatly in the crypto space, is market cap, because market cap realistically determines how far some sort of coin can move. Because if we look like, let's take Shiba Inu as a great example. Shiba Inu right now I think is like 0.00000 something. But anyway, the point is it's got a lot of zeros in front of it. And I will see YouTube videos now and again that essentially will have the tagline of like, can Shiba make it to $1? And my answer to that would be a resounding probably not, almost certainly not. Because if you look at the circulating supply of Shiba, I think it's 1 trillion. I think it might even be more than that, but let's just operate under the assumption that it has 1 trillion circulating supply. That would mean for Shiba to make it to $1, it would essentially have to be comparable to Bitcoin in value. Now, to all my Shiba maxis out there, if any of you are listening, I'm sorry, Shiba is not even close to Bitcoin in terms of value. I think that's not necessarily a very controversial thing to say, but I mean, it's just the reality of it, right? So Shiba hitting $1 basically never going to happen unless, it's like 100 years from now and the crypto market's quadrillions of dollars big, or, something like that. So, never say never, but also at least like it's not going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. I would almost guarantee that. So this is why I want to focus on market cap, is because market cap is very important, and price doesn't matter. So when I do my price predictions, I will break it down into price, but you will see I have a comment for everything showing the market cap, because in my opinion, the market cap is what matters. So before we start looking at some comparables and some things leading into the price predictions, I want to go into Jasmy's kind of system and how it works and what they're trying to build, because I think this is what will kind of set the groundwork for the comparables that I'm using. So what we can see here is, they're essentially fully focused on IoT. Now, in addition to IoT, they are using essentially like data storage. It's not necessarily data storage in the sense that you might expect like out of a Google Drive or something like that. I think there's a possibility that could be used that way at some point, but right now they're really focused very heavily on IoT, which I completely understand and kind of agree with, because IoT is one of those where it's very prevalent right now. I think a lot of people probably don't realize how prevalent IoT is currently, but there's not really necessarily like a structure, a platform around it. A lot of these IoT devices and the data that they generate are owned by these big tech companies, which again, you know, as has kind of been a theme on my channel, that sucks. So Jasmy is essentially trying to create something that changes this. So we can see, you know, they've got their IoT platform, which essentially enables you to manage your IoT data securely. And then they're going to be providing IoT devices. Now, stepping back, what Jasmy is looking to do is essentially provide an IoT platform, which is Internet of Things, to help you manage and monetize your own data rather than big tech doing it for you. So what we can see is they've got the platform where you can manage your IoT data currently if you have it, but part of it is going to be actually getting the devices that can support that, right? So for example, you know, if I have an Apple Watch tracks my blood pressure, it tracks my heart rate, it tracks all these random cool things that Apple can do now, right? Well, what are they doing with that data? I mean, technically they're not supposed to be selling it, and who knows if they sell medical data specifically, but that type of stuff is their data, right? And they can do what they want with it. So what Jasmy is allowing here is that data, if for whatever reason you wanted to sell your medical data for maybe helping, you know, prevent heart disease or whatever it is, then like you can manage that, where currently it's out of your control and it's out of your hands. So that's why they've got the platform, and then they also have the devices to help kind of augment certain IoT data points that they might be wanting. After that, you know, they've got, you know, the IoT services, which is basically, it's for like devs and people who are trying to leverage IoT data to like make certain things. Yesterday in my video, I kind of drew a comparison to Ring and maybe some innovations that people could use IoT or like the Ring data for. So that's kind of their platform in a sense. So what we can see, it's obviously very heavily focused on IoT, but it also does have data storage as a piece of it. So this leads into our next comparisons as I'm starting to try and lay the foundation and the groundwork for our price prediction. So what we can see, I think probably a good comparison here would be Helium. And the reason some of you who are familiar with Helium might be like, what are you doing? Like, they're essentially like a mobile company, like a decentralized like 5G company now, right? Yes, but when we saw all-time highs of over $5 billion in market cap back in 2021, 5G was like a kind of a far future idea thing that they were hoping for. IoT was really what they were wanting to accomplish. So I think, you know, a 5 billion market cap on Helium is probably it's a pretty fair comparison as far as, you know, maybe looking for some comparables in the industry. Another one which I've brought up previously is Filecoin. This one is, I would say, not necessarily a super fair like direct comparison, but I do think it is a good comparison because Filecoin does provide a lot of this stuff, particularly like the decentralized data storage and in a network that can kind of accommodate that. So what we can see here is at their all-time market cap high, it was about $12.25 billion. So again, you know, numbers just to be keeping in mind. Currently, you know, it's sitting at about 2.2, but you know, if we're looking for, you know, price predictions in bull cases and bull markets, I feel like looking at the 2021 highs is probably something that would make some sense to compare to. Another thing I want to go over here is we can see we've got categories. Two categories that I wanted to look at specifically are AI, and then we can see DePIN here. DePIN is it's a large category, but a lot of DePIN is essentially needing a decentralized data network to pull from or to be structured on, right? So that's why I kind of mentioned DePIN. DePIN is just under $19 billion total market cap in that sector, and AI is just under about $22 billion in that total sector. So now what we've all been waiting for, let's get into some price predictions, and we'll see, you know, kind of what that looks like potentially for Jasmy. Before we start, obviously you can see the bear case, and I'll explain each of these coming up. But before we start, I want to be crystal clear that I have no idea what is going to happen in the crypto market, right? Nobody does. Anybody who does and says they does is lying. Nobody knows. And so these are purely my opinion. I would more than welcome feedback in the comments. Also, if you do enjoy these price predictions and are enjoying this video, please do like and subscribe. That does help me out a lot as well. My channel is a new channel, so I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers by the end of September. So that's my goal that I have currently. If you do appreciate the content, I would really appreciate that. But going back to the price predictions, this is not financial, investing, legal, accounting, any sort of advice that you could possibly imagine. This is purely my opinion. You may say this is ridiculously low for a bear case. You may say this is ridiculously high for a bear case. You think this should be the bull case. It is my opinion. So you can take what you want from this and make your own decision. You should absolutely not be using this as any sort of advice to make an investment off of. So anyway, continuing on into the price prediction, now that I've gotten all of the disclaimers out of the way, the bear case that I am imagining for Jasmy, again, assuming the bull run materializes in the way a lot of us are expecting, I think all of this is somewhat predicated on the bull run and the local tops already not being in, right? If they're already in, well, oops. But assuming that we kind of lead into this bull run like we expect, I would say the bear case running into this, I think is pretty reasonable to say 10 cents. That's a $5 billion market cap. We can see helium did hit that in the last bull run. That would be about a 2.5 times from Jasmy's previous all-time high and a 5x from its current market cap. I feel like that's pretty reasonable. I think when things kind of start to go crazy, I feel like there's so much money gets poured into stupid stuff that like this isn't necessarily something that I think would be unreasonable. So that's kind of my bear case. Moving on, we've got a base case. You'll see from here as I continue on, I'm going to be putting ranges, mainly just because I couldn't really decide, and I feel like there's kind of a range in which we could look here. So the base case that I'm thinking for Jasmy would be somewhere between 12 and $17 billion market cap. That'd be a 12 to 17x from here. It also would be about a 6 to 8x above its all-time high market cap. With me referencing the all-time high market cap, one thing that I wanted to point out is when Jasmy released at it's $4.30 or whatever, there's two things. One, we don't have market cap data for it, and two, I couldn't really find the inflation data for the Jasmy coin. A lot of times what will happen is, maybe Jasmy was at $4.30 at that point, but maybe there were only a million of the 50 million or 50 billion or whatever it is. I think it's 50 billion. Let's look. Yeah, okay, so it's 50 billion max supply. If only a million of these were out, well, then sure, maybe it was $4. Or maybe if there were a billion of these out, like $4, well, it's probably not even correct. So given the historical data, we can look max. When we saw Jasmy all-time highs, the market cap is showing 0. So there's just not enough data here. So I'm going off of this previous all-time high, 2 billion-ish. So that's what I'm going off of. The way that I came to this number is this is the all-time high market cap of Filecoin, which is the 12 billion. And the upper bound would be the all-time high market cap of both Helium and Filecoin combined. Now, again, when we're coming into a bull run, we've seen in the past, at least, the all-time highs of previous bull runs for some of these winners do get dwarfed, which is why I'm kind of using this as the base case, because maybe you think the combination of these two is unreasonable because Jasmy's not quite that, but maybe those two projects end up seeing a $30 billion market cap this bull run. So 17 maybe makes a little bit more sense. So anyway, moving on to the next one. This is the bull case, I would say, and that's between 80 cents and $1.20. That would put us between a $40 and $60 billion market cap, which is a 40 to 60x from here, and a 20 to 30x from all-time highs. Now, how I got to this number was this is a combination of DPIN and AI market caps, the current valuation, up to the upper bound, which is about 1.5 times current DPIN and AI market caps. Obviously, I'm assuming that both of these in a future bull run would be like well past these numbers. And so coming up to, maybe the current valuation could seem to make sense. Again, a lot of this is like trying to look into a crystal ball. I have no idea. This is just kind of my guess and trying to pull some like metrics that we have to go off of currently for like, kind of like a benchmark. this is kind of getting to the point where it's a little bit arbitrary, but I'm trying to find like some sort of rationale for how I got there. The last one I want to leave you guys with is my ultra bull case. Now, I think this is something that I would personally not consider extremely likely, but it is possible. And I would say it's possible because, as you can see here, to hit in the $2 to $3 range, we're going to be between $100 and $150 billion market cap. Now, that would be 100 to 150x from here and a 50 to 75x above its previous all-time high. In the previous bull run, we did see projects do this. So this is not like completely out of like reason as far as like things are concerned, right? Especially if we see the circulating number of Jasmy tokens go down because people are locking them up in the network. Like this is possible, I would think. But seeing something much above this, I think is a little bit ridiculous. I think maybe 5-10 years from now, it's definitely very possible. But in this bull run, I mean, that is 100 to 150 billion. I mean, that's like the current market cap of like BNB, which is like an entire layer 1 chain. Ethereum, I think, is like 220 billion. And this is built on Ethereum. So having one project take half of Ethereum's current market cap is a little bit nuts. And I think for something like this to happen, we would need to see, 500 billion plus on Ethereum at least. So anyway, that's kind of, like I said, this is my ultra bull case. I'm not sure if this will happen, but I do think we will see some really big winners hit $100 billion market cap. Whether it's Jasmy or not, who knows? But I do think, there's definitely the possibility for this to happen. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed my price predictions for Jasmy. Feel free to leave your feedback in the comments below. I'm sure I'm going to get very differing opinions on whether I'm ridiculously too high or ridiculously too low. But obviously this is just my opinion and my input. I'd love to hear yours as well. If you did find this informative and interesting, please do give me a like and subscribe. It really does help me out. Like I said, this is a new channel. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.